Have you ever, finally laid down in bed after an incredibly long, draining day and just stared up at the dark ceiling?
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. And you just ask yourself, what did I even do today?
It's the worst feeling.
It really is. The room is quiet. The blue light from your phone is just glaring in your eyes, and there's this heavy, sinking feeling in your chest.
Like you're completely empty.
Yes, exactly. You know you were awake for 16 hours. You know time passed. But if someone asked you what you actually accomplished, you literally couldn't point to a single meaningful thing.
It is a universally agonizing moment, honestly. You are physically exhausted, yet mentally completely hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And that combination of intense fatigue and just profound unproductivity, it creates this very specific kind of guilt that can keep you awake for hours.
Yeah, the guilt is so real. So if you are listening to this right now and nodding your head, or, if you've been feeling like you are just spinning your wheels, constantly busy, but somehow falling further behind in life, this deep dive is entirely for you.
Yeah.
We are looking at a deeply relatable, really candid conversation recorded between two people, Ethan and Mia.
It's such a great source.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore the psychology of why we waste our own time, the severe mental exhaustion that comes with procrastination, and how to actually break the cycle.
Right, through self-kindness and small progress.
Exactly. And what makes their discussion so compelling is that they strip away all the, toxic productivity hacks and the hustle culture cheerleading.
Yeah, none of that wake up at 4 a.m. stuff.
Right, none of that. They look at the actual mechanisms driving our behavior. So, okay, let's unpack this. They do a remarkable job of articulating the gap between wanting to do something with your life and finding yourself completely paralyzed.
They really do. And they start by looking at the timing of when this paralysis feels the absolute worst.
Which is usually at night, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
At night. Because during the day, we have a relatively easy time staying distracted.
We have jobs, errands, traffic.
Right, general noise. But when the sun goes down and all that external noise drops away, the internal noise takes the floor.
The thoughts get so deafening. I mean, Ethan mentions the specific questions that just start playing on a loop in his head.
Yeah, things like, why am I still not improving?
Right, and why do I keep procrastinating? But he also points out a strange paradox that I think is so interesting.
The exhaustion paradox.
Yeah, he talks about feeling totally, completely bone-weary tired, even though he literally didn't do anything important all day.
It feels contradictory.
It does. I struggled to wrap my head around that at first. Realistically, if you spend 8 hours sitting on a couch scrolling, physically resting, how can you be physically exhausted?
Well, what's fascinating here is that we tend to conflate physical exertion with total exhaustion.
Meaning what? Exactly.
Well, if you run a half marathon, you expect your muscles to burn and your body to need sleep.
Sure.
But the brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. It only accounts for about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of your resting metabolic energy.
Wow, 20% just resting.
Just resting. So when you are sitting on the couch, quote unquote, doing nothing, your brain's default mode network is often hyperactive.
The default mode network.
Yeah, it's the network responsible for mind-wandering, rumination, and self-reflection.
Ah, okay. So we aren't actually doing nothing. We are running intense internal simulations.
Precisely. You're running simulations of potential future failures. You are beating yourself up over past mistakes. And crucially, you are actively suppressing the knowledge of the tasks you are avoiding.
That sounds exhausting, just saying it out loud.
Right. That suppression takes a massive amount of psychological energy. It is cognitive friction.
Cognitive friction, I like that term.
Yeah, you are basically fighting a war against your own guilt and anxiety. And that internal wrestling match consumes real physiological energy, so you are entirely depleted by the time your head hits the pillow.
That makes me think of sitting in a parked car and just pressing the gas pedal all the way down to the floor.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, but the transmission is in neutral. The engine is just screaming, it's burning a massive amount of fuel, the temperature gauge is spiking, but you are generating zero forward momentum.
You're not going anywhere.
Nowhere. You're just burning out the machine.
The neutral engine is a perfect way to visualize cognitive load. The fuel is your mental bandwidth, and instead of using it to drive toward a destination, you are burning it off as anxiety.
Okay, so if the engine is constantly revving in neutral, we have to look at what is keeping it so occupied.
The distractions.
Right. In Ethan and Mia's conversation, they examine the ultimate modern tool for this, the digital black hole.
The smartphone.
Exactly. Ethan talks about the trap of opening his phone for just 5 minutes to take a quick break, and the next thing he knows, 2 entire hours have vanished.
Just gone.
Gone. And the scariest part is that afterward, he can't even recall what he just spent 2 hours watching.
It is a form of digital amnesia. But Mia makes a very astute observation here. She points out that this behavior is rarely about a lack of discipline or poor time management.
Right, which is what we usually blame it on.
Exactly. But people are utilizing these digital black holes because they are addicted to escaping.
Escaping from what?
She specifically lists the things we are running from: the pressure to succeed, the fear of the future, profound loneliness, and the disappointment of where we currently are in life.
Wow. Which fundamentally challenges the narrative we usually hear. I mean, the common societal judgment is that if you are scrolling on your phone for 3 hours, you are just inherently lazy.
Yeah, just unmotivated.
Right. But framing it as an emotional defense mechanism changes the picture entirely. Sitting in silence with the feeling that you are, quote, behind in life is agonizing.
It is deeply painful. If we connect this to the bigger picture, when we step away from our digital distractions, all those insecurities rush in to fill the vacuum.
They flood it.
Yes. The digital escape is alluring because the alternative requires facing a reality we feel completely unequipped to handle.
Okay, I understand that we use social media to numb out, but I want to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
We all know social media is a curated highlight reel. We've heard it a million times, right?
Right.
And logically, we understand that people are using filters, they're only posting their best moments. So if we know it's fake, why does looking at someone's curated vacation or promotion still send us into an existential spiral?
It's a great question.
I mean, why does it hurt if we know it's not the full picture?
Because it comes down to an evolutionary mismatch. Our brains did not evolve to process the social dynamics of the internet.
Okay, how so?
Well, for the vast majority of human history, we lived in small, tight-knit groups of maybe 150 people.
Our tribe.
Right, our tribe. Our brains are wired to assess our social standing within that small tribe because, evolutionarily, being at the bottom of the hierarchy meant you might not survive.
Okay, so we are wired to constantly compare ourselves to our immediate peers to ensure our literal survival.
Exactly. Now, fast forward to today. You open your phone, and your primitive brain is suddenly confronted with the curated highlights of thousands of billionaires, supermodels, prodigies, and seemingly perfect peers.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of pressure.
It's overwhelming. The logical part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, knows it is a highlight reel. But when you are already in a state of cognitive fatigue, when your engine has been revving in neutral all day, your prefrontal cortex is exhausted.
It just shuts down.
It goes offline. Your primitive brain takes over, sees all these incredibly successful people, and sends a panic signal saying, we are at the absolute bottom of the global hierarchy.
That is terrifying, but it explains so much. You feel bad, so you scroll to escape.
Right.
The scrolling subjects your primitive brain to an impossible standard, which triggers a biological panic response, making you feel entirely inadequate.
Yep, loop closes.
And that inadequacy makes you feel worse, which makes you want to escape even more.
Yeah.
It is a brutal, self-perpetuating loop.
And as Ethan and Mia point out, nobody is posting their blooper reel.
No one.
Nobody posts their panic attacks, their lonely nights, their intense fears, or the moments when they feel completely and utterly lost.
Right. We are comparing our chaotic, behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's Oscar-winning moments.
Precisely.
So if this avoidance mechanism makes us so miserable, why do we choose it over and over again?
Well, this brings us to the elephant in the room. The guilt engineered by hustle culture.
Oh, absolutely. Hustle culture. We exist in a society that pushes the toxic belief that every single second of the day must be productive.
It's relentless.
It is. If you aren't optimizing your routine, monetizing your hobby, or moving closer to your goals, you are failing.
Hustle culture has fundamentally warped our relationship with downtime. Mia points out that the direct result of this mindset is that we have lost the ability to simply exist.
Just to be.
Right. If you rest, you feel guilty.
Mm.
If you relax, you feel lazy.
Humans aren't machines, as Mia says. But I get that distinction intellectually, but realistically, isn't avoidance just a harsh word for taking a necessary mental break?
That's a fair question.
I mean, if I spend an hour watching a mindless television show, how do I actually tell the difference in the moment between avoiding my life and just taking a well-deserved rest?
You can tell the difference by observing your nervous system.
Okay.
True rest activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. It requires intention and granting yourself the permission to temporarily put down your burdens.
So your body actually physically responds differently.
Yes, when you are truly resting, your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, and your mind is present in the relaxing activity.
And avoidance.
Avoidance keeps you in a state of sympathetic arousal, a low-grade fight-or-flight response.
Ah.
You might be physically sitting on the couch watching that same television show, but your brain is dripping stress hormones like cortisol.
Because you're worrying.
Because you are constantly aware of the email you didn't send, the laundry you didn't fold, or the project you are delaying. The threat of the unfinished task is looming over you the entire time. You are physically inactive, but biologically stressed.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There's a quote from Mia in the source material that Ethan explicitly says he wants to write down because it hits so hard.
Oh, I love this quote.
Mia says, "Rest helps you recover. Avoidance keeps you stuck."
It is the defining difference. Rest replenishes your resources. Avoidance drains the very few resources you have left.
It makes me think about our smartphones again. True rest is like consciously plugging your phone into the charger.
Yeah, you are adding power.
You are actively doing something nurturing to replenish the battery so you have power for the next day. Avoidance, on the other hand, is just putting the phone in airplane mode so nobody can reach you.
You're just hiding.
You are hiding. The screen is still on, the background apps are still running, and the battery is still draining. You are just draining it in complete isolation. You aren't recovering at all.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. To transition from airplane mode to the charger, you have to consciously grant yourself permission to step away without the accompanying guilt.
Which is easier said than done.
It is. But you have to remind yourself of Mia's grounding statement. Humans aren't machines. We simply cannot operate at maximum output indefinitely.
So if we realize we are stuck in airplane mode, hiding from our responsibilities and draining our battery, how do we actually move forward?
We have to look at the root cause.
Right, because when you are in that state, the idea of suddenly becoming productive feels entirely overwhelming. Ethan and Mia dig into what actually stops us from starting in the first place, and it almost always traces back to fear.
Yes. Specifically, the fear of failing.
Yeah.
Or, perhaps even more terrifying, the fear of trying your absolute best, giving it everything you have, and realizing that your best still isn't good enough.
Wow. That is a very vulnerable fear to confront.
It's paralyzing.
It is. It is so much safer for the human ego to just avoid the task entirely. Because if you avoid it, you have a built-in excuse.
You can protect yourself.
Right. You can tell yourself, well, I didn't fail because I lack talent or intelligence. I failed because I started the night before and ran out of time. Self-sabotage basically acts as a protective shield for the ego.
It is a very effective shield in the short term. But Ethan and Mia acknowledge a painful reality. The safety of avoidance is an illusion.
Because doing nothing hurts too.
Exactly. Because regret is exhausting. Mia talks about how time moves forward regardless of whether you engage with it or hide from it.
Yeah, time doesn't wait for us.
No, it doesn't. One day you wake up and suddenly months have passed, sometimes even years, and you're still in the exact same spot, only now you are carrying the added weight of the time you feel you wasted.
So what does this all mean? Like, what does this mean for the listener who is sitting there panicking right now that they've already wasted too much of their life?
Well, the solution they offer is profoundly countercultural. The answer to this paralysis isn't to suddenly become a hyper-productive machine.
Thank goodness.
Right. You do not need to overhaul your entire personality or life by tomorrow morning. They argue that life actually becomes significantly calmer and progress becomes possible when you simply stop trying to be perfect.
Perfectionism is the real paralyzer here, isn't it?
Absolutely. We tend to view perfectionism as a positive trait, a standard of high quality. But neurologically, perfectionism is often processed as a threat.
A threat, really?
Yes. If you tell yourself that you have to write a flawless chapter of a novel today, or run 10 miles when you haven't run in a year, or completely overhaul your career, the task is too large.
It's massive.
The brain's amygdala, the fear center, perceives that massive expectation as a psychological threat.
And then what happens?
It triggers the freeze response, paralysis sets in, and the avoidance mechanism takes over to keep you safe from the guaranteed failure of not meeting that perfect standard.
So the antidote is to bypass the amygdala entirely.
Exactly.
And Ethan and Mia suggest doing this through incredibly small progress. They list some very tangible examples from their own lives.
Like reading just a few pages of a book.
Or taking a short 10-minute walk outside, choosing to go to sleep just slightly earlier than usual, drinking a glass of water. But honestly, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, How does drinking a glass of water or reading 2 pages of a book fix my existential dread of wasting my life?
That's a fair point.
I mean, it sounds nice, but is it really going to change anything?
It changes the neurological pathway.
Mm.
It isn't just about, quote, being nice to yourself. It is a psychological hack to build momentum.
Oh, a hack. Tell me more.
When you set an exceptionally small goal, like drinking a glass of water or reading 2 pages, it is so non-threatening that it doesn't trigger the amygdala's fear response. You bypass the paralysis.
Because it's too small to be scary.
Right. And when you complete that tiny task, your brain releases a microdose of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation.
You are building a dopamine loop.
Exactly. You complete a tiny task, you get a small dopamine hit, which motivates you to take another small step.
So you're basically tricking your brain into motion.
Yes, you are shifting the brain out of the freeze response and into an action pathway. You are redefining your identity in that moment from someone who is stuck to someone who is in motion, however slowly.
That changes the entire perspective on small tasks. They aren't just drops in the bucket. They are the mechanism for restarting the engine.
They are the spark.
Yes. So, if you are listening to us right now and you are sitting there with a knot in your stomach, panicking that you've already wasted too much of your life scrolling or procrastinating or hiding in airplane mode, what should they do?
Well, you need to hear Ethan and Mia's core reassurance. You still have time.
I love that.
You are not too late. Your life isn't over just because you had a few unproductive days or a few unproductive months or even years. The slate can be wiped clean in this exact moment.
You don't have to finish the grand, overwhelming project today.
No. The only thing that truly matters is the act of starting. You just have to take one small, imperfect step that moves you out of avoidance and into reality.
The immense weight of the past doesn't have to dictate your next hour.
That's right.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Ethan and Mia's conversation, we really want to reinforce that message for you. You are absolutely not alone in feeling lost or paralyzed.
It's so common.
It is. That feeling of laying in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, wondering where the time went. Millions of people are having that exact same thought tonight. The friction is a universal part of the human experience.
The goal moving forward is awareness. Start observing your own behavior.
Notice when the internal noise gets loud at night.
Right. Pay attention to the difference in your body between the rest that actually recovers your energy and the avoidance that just drains it further. And above all, give yourself the grace to embrace those tiny, wildly imperfect steps forward.
You don't have to be perfect.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be in motion.
I want to leave you with one final thought. At the very end of Ethan and Mia's conversation, they asked their audience a really poignant question. They ask, what activity makes you feel truly alive?
It's a beautiful question.
It is, and I want to take that and evolve it just a little bit based on the psychology we've unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
If we know that avoidance is really just an emotional defense mechanism, a way to escape the things that make us uncomfortable or afraid, what is one tiny, wildly imperfect action you could take tomorrow morning that would make you feel truly alive rather than just safely distracted?
Oh, that's powerful.
It doesn't have to be grand. It shouldn't be perfect. It just needs to bypass the fear and remind you that you are here and you are moving forward.
That is the perfect reflection to carry with you. Remember to take care of yourself, and please don't be so hard on yourself. The fact that you are here, listening and reflecting, is already a step in the right direction.